Bunch of horse shit. Yeah, sorry about that. Finally, welcome. Man, sorry. I've been trying to stream to YouTube Shorts and like the vertical, like TikTok, and I've just been trying some new stuff out the last week, and basically I just stripped it back down to the bare minimum, like I was doing before. But anyway, I was thinking the last couple of days. Maybe I should do a little bit of a spiel first. Like I just saw that scumbag Byron Donalds won in Florida. Man, that's like honestly that. Oh wow, Horizon, my brother. What's shaking, bro? Welcome back. Welcome back, my dude. Anywho, yeah, Byron Donalds, this scumbag won. Yeah, or the Republican primary. Like I'm just not excited about that. Not at all. Look at this fat loser. This guy isn't even an American. He's from like Guatemala or Panama. I hate these wolves in sheep's clothing. They're legitimately snakes.
Donald speaking live in Florida right now after clinching the Republican nomination for governor. Let's listen in.
We've been crisscrossing Florida. We've been knocking hundreds of thousands.
That's such garbage. He hasn't been doing that. Like, what's his name? Fishback has been doing that. This guy has been smoking cigars, some ivory tower office, doing backroom deals. Not cool.
Thousands of doors, taking our message to all Floridians. And tonight,
not that I've seen,
because of your sweat, because of your hard work, we have won a massive victory.
Pretty much guaranteed that he's going to be the next governor. Like, I hate this about politics. It's how you get locked into these douchebags, these truly despicable people. This guy's Israel first, through and through. Like, that's his shtick, is Israel first. He does what Israel wants. So depressing, man. So depressing.
Now, we've just come through a hard-fought primary.
Yeah,
I got a call from Paul Renner and James Fishback tonight. And hold on.
I couldn't care less, Mr. Donalds. I don't give a damn if they endorsed you. I do not care. I don't want you.
I'll tell you why in a moment. And they congratulated me and all of us on a hard-fought victory. And my conversation with both of them is very simple. Congratulations. Let's go beat David Jolly in November. You see, because individual opinions and passionate supporters are the beauty of our conservative movement. But tonight, the primary is over. Tonight, we put aside our differences. Tonight, we are one united Republican Party. You see, I remember Erica and I were sitting around a fire pit last year with friends, and we were talking about this campaign, and we were talking about the future of Florida. No matter the issue or the policy, the conversation always ended with us talking about the Florida dream. For us, it's personal. You know my story. I came to Florida 30 years ago on a Greyhound bus. At 17 years old, with just a trunk full of clothes, I arrived in Tallahassee. Go Noles. Go Noles.
I really don't know that much about this douchebag, but I just don't like him for whatever reason. I wonder where everybody's at, or if it's on my end.
I could have sworn it was opening weekend
no.
here in Orlando because it.
Oh wow, he's in Orlando. So this is just like a few minutes ago. Like, bro, within like probably 15 minutes of my house or less, for sure. If he's in Orlando, he's like that's kind of crazy. That stuff happens a lot. You'd be surprised. It's kind of weird, especially when you see it on when I used to see, whenever I'd see it on TV. It really. I remember one time American Pickers came through Orlando, and it was so weird seeing intersections that I pass every day on TV. It was weird. Other than live, or like live news. But like also they didn't find a damn thing because here in Florida, when people move down south, especially historically, they don't bring their shit with them. You know, people they collect that kind of stuff uh when they live up north because they live in like my family up north. Some of them live in the same houses that their great grandparents lived in. I remember my cousin Stevie, he grew up in a farmhouse that his great grandparents lived, or at least his grandparents lived in, and like all of his relatives and stuff were born in. His dad and dude, they had like 5 or 6 like pole barns just slap full, dude, like Studebakers. He had like a old Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am with the big blue eagle on the hood, like 6 old tractors that they just parked, bro. Like crazy, dude. Just four-wheelers, just everything crammed in there, man. And some of them were just strictly storage. Like 1 or 2 of them they were in and out of all that. They had an old barn too, but they had cows and some land that they grew stuff on. But man, half like they had quite a bit of property, but a lot of it, man, was holding junk. But it was cool though, because like, bro, the thing had like Studebakers on there. I remember every time I went there, I would spend like the half the time there, like going through all of the old stuff. It was really neat. I really enjoyed it, honestly. I really did. And yeah, it's not like that down here. Nobody has that stuff. And it's like the real estate. I mean, maybe it didn't used to be that way, but now the real estate is at a point where really nobody has room. I mean, do have a lot of storage, rentals, storage places that rent, public storage or whatever they call it. But a lot of the old time Floridians, uh, and I worked for did a lot of work for them doing tree work. I worked for old customers all over central Florida. I mean, I seen some old people. Like I remember the last one I saw, it was this old lady. She must have been 70, maybe 80, and she grew up in the house we were trimming. Like bro, she had that badass like old school Southern accent, and she was like the last one left. All of the old time Floridians, or like a part of her family, like she was recollecting, eras that were bygone eras, man. Like this lady was alive during World War II and was there, which, also I really enjoyed trimming her house too. These beautiful old oak trees, and she was really cool. Uh, and those people you love to do a good job for. But anyway, I was thinking about things are really quite gloomy, man. Like seriously, things are I swear you can't sort of turn your head without seeing bad news or something else that's going to crap. You know what I'm saying? Like I've really felt that lately. And it's like, I can, I can think about something, like I can focus on something too much, like much too much. And so like I've decided, okay, I need to like actually evaluate the things that I'm like spending time on, thinking about, looking, researching, and figure out what am I wasting my time on? Because there are a lot of the West, a lot of the a lot of Western institutions, a lot of American institutions, they are lost causes. And I'm done thinking about them. I'm done wasting my breath. I'm done wasting my mental energy. I'm not doing it anymore. And really, we're going to go through and I hope I wanted you guys to kind of spitball with me, like, because, you know, figure out what's a worthy investment. Because, as I see it, there's a lot of things are going to change relatively short order. But then again, also, though, I think it's a good time to sort of like right now is sort of a wild west. And I think I want to focus on what I'm spending my time on because it could be the difference between, you know, having a wildly successful career and not, or, it seems like it would benefit me. But some things are for sure, they're done. You know, I think college, uh, and a lot of things that I maybe like, I'm not necessarily going to talk about these, but there's a lot of things a lot of Western and American institutions that are dead. They're done. They are donezo and they're not coming back. And it's like, I think it's incumbent upon people that are actually thinking ahead right now because the people that are thinking ahead and thinking strategically right now are the people that are going to be calling shots in the near future, or the people that are going to be making things happen. Why, but stream is lagging so hard. Action sucks so bad. It really does. Need to figure this out. Quick, let me break out. 5 minutes.
Fox News Alert, Byron Donald speaking live.
Vertical. That shit fucking. Bro, are you fucking kidding? Why are you doing me like this? Sorry about that. Like, I think I sorted it out. I don't know why that happens. Like, I didn't change anything, but I just stopped the stream, restart it. For whatever reason, it's perfect now. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not my connect. It's something else. Like, and it's something that you don't have control over. It's something that just sort of kind of takes its own fancy. It is what I'm worried about it. I'll just figure it out. Anyway, Yeah, but I was just thinking some of these damned institutions, they're not worth the trouble anymore. And I'm done. I'm not spending my life. I'm at the point where I don't have that time anymore. And I want to reap the most benefits from the time I have left. And I want to enjoy the things you know, uh, that really move me and, really, I really enjoy. And, I'm getting a much better feel for that. But like, I almost feel like there's some, I do kind of see why Tucker's doing what he's doing because it's starting to feel like when I was watching something about the DSA earlier and they were basically saying that I don't agree with them at all, but they were saying that, a major impetus for them, getting into the DS, the Democratic Socialists of America, was that our two-party politics doesn't work. And like these are minorities that were saying this basically, and I can understand why they would think that. But at first I was like, well, that's our system of government, and if they don't like it, they can leave. But at the same time, I kind of get it, and I kind of agree. Like I can't help but agree with them to a certain extent. And I'm glad that Tucker's doing something and trying to figure this stuff out because they're right. The Republicans and the Democrats don't serve us anymore. And like I think it's really important uh that men get back involved or I mean really, men are going to do what they want to do. But if we're going to have any chance at all, you know, uh, defending ourselves or getting what we want done politically, we're going to have to do it by sticking together for sure. And hopefully, there'll be a movement similar to Charlie Kirk's, but maybe more nationalist to get men to start showing up again at the polls because we're doomed. We are legitimately doomed without if men don't start showing up. I mean, how much longer? Like, how many more election cycles can America take where it just gets bludgeoned over the head by white, childless females, adult females? You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, how many more elections can this country, can any of our governments, state, local, federal, how many more elections can they endure where men aren't speaking or aren't using uh their franchise? Not many, not many. And if things go down, I mean, if America does go down, it will be as a result of men and women, a result of women positively voting for garbage and men not voting negatively, just not voting. And it will be on men's shoulders. It will be on our shoulders still, we'll have nobody else to blame but ourselves. So it is what it is, and it's like, I mean, I'm certainly going to try to, get men out there, but I'm not gonna beat my head up against the wall anymore, like, crashing out over that, either we step up to fix it or we don't, and it's like, at this point, it's better to figure out what in the West is not collapsing. That's how you're gonna figure out whether or not, uh, like, figuring out what's worth investing in, what's worth worrying about. And it's not, you know, what are the bad things? It's more like like the smaller number is like what are the good things? I'm not sure. I don't want to throw good money after bad for lost causes. You know that doesn't make any sense because I think there's seriously fertile ground for a lot of stuff, a lot of change, a lot of really good things. Uh, I think a lot of this AI and all this stuff. I think we're fixing to be in an era where analog and physical copies of stuff is going to be really valuable again. Like, in my opinion, people that have their movie library on a hard drive, their music library on that hard drive, and, you know, like, physical storage and physical media is going to be like a currency in the future. You know, the people that have all the classic music, classic movies, everything that's recorded on some medium or you know what I mean? Like print and stuff. Those things are going to be super valuable. And like, as we're weaned off of the old world and we're being introduced and we're being kind of like boiling frogs, like introduced to new technology and stuff. And I think it's folly to start like with when the records were the thing and then tapes or CDs came out, a lot of people threw out their records. Like my mom threw out all her record collection. That's dumb. Like I mean, not what she did, but people throwing hard copies away, not smart. Also, I think I'm certain that there'll be like some a renaissance, something like that, a revival in because we're getting into the internet world so deep now that we're getting more and more sterile, more and more digitized, and the further away, more distant the past, like the romance eras, like played people physically playing instruments, but like the mediums of communication and entertainment of the past, the way that they engage your senses and stuff, it, we're being weaned off of that stuff. And I feel a lot of the wisdom, like or the Renaissance was actually, it was a rediscovery, a rebirth of stuff that had already been talked about and cherished and taught to people for a long time, as great stuff. And I feel like it was sort of there were gains in the medieval times and before. There were gains in knowledge. It was like a less technologically advanced, uh, more of a starting point for the West. And then once there was so much of it, it's like people went back and went through all of it again and sort of cemented it in. And I feel like what's about to happen for us. Because since the Renaissance, every era has had one era. It has the present when it's popular, then it goes out of style, and then maybe a generation or two later, it goes back in style, and then it's done. It's forgotten about. So many philosophers. There is so much. There's so much knowledge in the Western library just since the Renaissance that they barely touch on any of our history in school. It used to be when you went to school, they had to fill your youth with schooling and to have the material. They didn't have we didn't know enough about the world. We didn't have enough literature to fill up a whole childhood. So they reached way into the past and all of the literature and knowledge from ancient antiquity they taught to kids. They would teach because they weren't trying to cram stuff in. They only had so much. That's why they taught Greek, Latin. They taught you several languages, and you learned those languages so you could read other literature from other cultures. And as our knowledge grows, because there is human knowledge that's like wisdom, observations, and then there's empirical knowledge where it's like physics or factual things, stuff that will never change. It will, you know what I mean? Like it's not interpreted, it's like something that we've measured. And there's more of that knowledge than you can learn in a childhood. So it's like we don't even learn any of that stuff anymore. The antiquity uh philosophy. And I think that there's going to be a rediscovery of that. And also, the people that are talking about these things, I mean, like there's already a revival right now with stoicism, with like Mark Antony, uh or not Mark Antony, but Marcus Aurelius, Marcus the Golden. Um, he wrote a diary, or he kept a diary. He was the emperor of the Roman Empire at one point. Like he was actually Commodus, the emperor in Gladiator. That was his father that he killed at the beginning, was Marcus Aurelius. And he was one of the five good emperors, I believe, five where they were like philosopher kings. And they basically the emperor didn't trans like those five emperors were all adopted sons of each other. So they weren't passing the scepter or the throne to their own son. They were adopting wise or their proteges. Marcus Aurelius was the protege of the emperor that came before him. And there was five of those. Marcus Aurelius was one of them. And he kept a diary about everything. It's called Meditations. It's almost it's like a novella. It's like kind of it's not a long book, It's probably about that thick. Looks like a paperback, and it's not super thick. I mean, I think the Communist Manifesto is probably the same size. But this guy was so down to earth, and you know he spent time and effort uh, uh, building discipline. And even though he was the emperor and didn't have to take anybody's crap, he did. He urged patience with people. That people are flawed, and it's incumbent upon us to be the better, bigger person, to have grace. Like I want to be an honorable person, somebody that people like, somebody with a reputation that people respect. And I want people, when someone asks about me, I would hope that that person would say, or I would hope that I acquitted myself so that people will say he's a straight shooter, a straightforward guy, honest guy, a gentleman. And, you know, in my mind, treating people well is a requirement. I think to be a good person, or I think, like I would have to, like I need to treat people well to think highly of myself. Like how my demeanor towards other people and what other people like. I don't actually care what other people think about me, but I care about people. and like it's weird. I didn't used to feel this way when I was younger, but like I kind of am I'm not a people person, but that's I love people. I love the things about people. There's certain like there's certain aspects of people that I'm not too fond of, but like, I think everybody is valuable to a certain degree, and everybody deserves respect. I want respect. I think everybody deserves a certain amount of respect. And I think how you treat people matters, and it's not about what people think of me. It's like, I, d- you know, I remember when I was growing up, like reading or hearing how, uh, it's not what people think of you that matters. It's what you, who you actually are and your values and your own self-esteem. And I remember, when I was growing up, I remember when I realized that it what makes a good what makes you an honorable person is like when you even when like you don't steal even when nobody's looking. Like you should behave the same regardless if nobody's looking or you're in a crowd. Like I think that's a virtue, being the type of person that doesn't change their behavior when they're in front of people, that carries themselves with the same values and the same attitude and affect. Like what matters is that, like it's not that you're you're concerned with your reputation so you don't steal. Like you care about your reputation so you don't steal, which is fine, like if that's how somebody else uh gets it done, if that's how what they have to tell themselves to be a good person or to not do people dirty, that's fine. But, my sort of test is like doing the right thing even when nobody's looking. And like and I don't do it for other people. I do it for myself and that's the only reason why you would do that. Because nobody will ever know. And that's the way really that's kind of the way I feel about everything. Like I and I y- I think you should let your actions and your demeanor and you should let your actions do your talking. The things that you do, the endeavors that you set out on or that you take up, the things that you do. Like they say, like what is it? You are what you eat, and like everything that you do defines you. And I think it's best to let people form their own opinions by your actions rather than like that's why I'm weary of people that talk a lot about themselves because they're trying to persuade people they're a good person instead of showing them they're a good person. Yeah, and I just got off onto a tangent there, but like, this stuff does matter though. It really does. And I've thought about all this stuff, and like I don't really like telling you guys. I don't really like talking about something I haven't thought about a lot. Half-baked ideas, they don't sound very good. But like it's just I've noticed, I'm starting to get more discerning with the things that I spend my time on, rightfully so, because half my life is already over. Like and I don't listen. There's a lot of music that I no longer listen to. Like I don't listen to the radio. I don't want to hear what's on the radio, what currently is playing on the hot new radio. The kid, the colored people's radio stations. I don't really want to hear it. When I listen to music, it's usually music from the past, you know, all from Led Zeppelin to Mozart to all kinds of stuff, but I don't listen to the new stuff. I think all that stuff is trash, and it's not it's nobody will know about it in 10 years, or nobody will talk about it in 10 years. Like I'm concerned with the future. Like that's what I'm concerned with. And that's what I want to make sure that everything I do and all the things that I spend my time working on are things that are going to bear fruit in the future. Things that are I'm going to be thankful. It will be I want to be kind to my future self. Like, and that's why I don't play video games anymore. Like I learned instruments instead of playing video games because video games don't impress people. I mean, it's not that I care about what people think. It's just like if I'm going to do something that's just on a lark, that's to pass the time, it's going to be something that benefits me down the road. So that's the way I look at it. I try to be deliberate. And I think the same thing goes with our political system. I don't think everything should get. I mean, there are some things that they are lost causes. They really are. And it's like, what's the point? I mean, there's no point in focusing on them, or I'll let the other people focus on some things that other people can worry about it. Rather than me, I'm just going to focus on certain things. Like I really want to focus on like men. We really need to start collectivizing like women, because they're like you see them, they're running amok in our country. Like it's crazy. And I seen something about that Clancy woman, Lindsay Clancy. I was watching something and I forgot. I didn't, I was sort of forgetting about this, but like, even if that woman is found non-guilty, she will still spend the rest of her life in an institution. That woman's never gonna she will never be free ever again. Yeah, discipline is hard. And there are some things that my discipline is sort of lax on. And then there are other things that it's kind of a no-brainer. It's like it doesn't even cross my mind. But a lot of that is habitual. If when I've found stuff that was like a wallet or things like that. The trick to that stuff is not to think about it. When you come across something that isn't yours, don't think, just turn it in. Don't think. Just give it to give it to somebody at a desk, or what, give it to the lost and found, the authorities, whatever. But don't think about it, and then forget about it. Once you're finished with it, you give it up, because it's not yours. It's not yours. You know what I mean? Like, and you should find a way to be content with what's yours. Find a way to live with if you can't afford something, got to find a way to live with that stuff. Yeah. Oh, I hear that, big cat. I hear you. Discipline with food is well. It's funny. I've had a little trouble with it here and there throughout my life, but like, what's this last year? Like I gained a lot of weight. Like when I got injured last year in August, I hurt my shoulder and broke a rib. So I was laid up for like a while, and I get guaranteed I was like a buck 90 in maybe February or March. Guaranteed. Guaranteed, man. I had gotten to a buck 90. And since then, like it bothered me. I didn't realize it because I've been inside, I wasn't looking in the mirror or anything or seeing, and I just kind of, my brother said something to me, like, and he's just like, "You gained weight?" I'm like, "Yeah, I have." So, but I kind of, it's I reaffirmed to myself like, oh, okay, yeah, this isn't hard. It's just a matter like for some reason I start not that I get anxiety, I notice it and then it kind of scares me and then I don't have a problem with it. But there are a lot of things like that, like where you want to have discipline. Yeah, Ella Fitzgerald, yeah. Yeah, I really like 40s stuff too. I like, you know, uh Hank Williams Sr. Like it's and also, man, the last week, I watched a version, a movie version of Don Giovanni. I think it was done in the 90s. It's like I think directed by a guy named Losey, Losey. Bro, not gonna lie, man, it's one of the greatest pieces of art that I've ever seen. Like, I'm not even kidding. And I have imbibed a lot of media in my life, but I finally do understand opera. Actually, it's the greatest music I've ever heard. That Don Giovanni, like I'm not even gonna lie, it is. And I've tried to get into Mozart many times throughout my adult life. I love Beethoven, but I had trouble with it. There was only a few things that I liked. Then the rest, I didn't like it. And then I watched this Don Giovanni, and basically what they did was they recorded it on film using opera singers where they lip sync on the film basically, and then but they're all trained opera singers that sing it normally. But it's amazing. Like, bro, the music, yeah, it's hard for me to put it into words, but like, how heavy metal, how there's certain songs that just they're satisfying. Like you can like especially when you need something to get hyped. You need something to get your adrenaline going, or something that kind of gets you sort of headbanging. Bro, I get that from Don Giovanni and Mozart. Like it's the weirdest thing though, man. There are songs, there's many, many, many songs in that Don Giovanni opera, but there are songs in that are light and poppy and fun and happy and sunny. Like, it's like the sunshine comes out when these songs come on. Then there are also like hardcore, like headbanging songs. Like seriously, not joking. I mean, because the way the beat or the way the tempo is, you're just like, I don't know, man. And the way the buildups are, the crescendos. But it's by far it is the best music I've ever listened to, especially with the words. And then with the movie, it's like 2.5, 3 hours long, but it has subtitles, English subtitles. It's incredible. It really is. And I'll probably maybe I'll do a video on it one day or a stream where I just take the monetization off and do it regardless. But I mean, it's really special, and I didn't realize this, but Don Giovanni, that opera is about a whore master. It's about a total scoundrel, but the guy, he's a player. He's a Don Juan, but he screws women. He literally and figuratively, but like there's scenes where he's like, "Oh, I can smell a woman," and the whole story is more like it's him and his valet kind of talking, and he's chased by the women that he screwed in the past. I didn't know that. The whole play is him sort of like swindling these women. Like that he shows up to a wedding party and like grabs the bride and takes her upstairs in his villa and like tells the groom to stay downstairs, and The groom, like, almost goes to object, and he goes, "I would." He's like, "I wouldn't object. You will regret it." And it's it's a really good. It's incredible, but it's really human too. Really human. I feel like I have an idea of the kind of person that Mozart was. Like, you can't find out who Mozart was from what other people thought of him. Like, I've never seen anybody else's commentary on Mozart. I don't know even if it exists. But there's one way that you can get to know him, by his work. And I feel like, music, it's harder to, like, instrumentals, it's harder to understand somebody with an instrumental because it's like really could be about a lot of things. All you know is that you were intended to feel the emotion or feel how however the music makes you feel, that's on purpose. Which it's not meant to make you think of words and stuff. Whereas these operas, it's an insight into this guy's mind, his thoughts, like what he thought a good opera would be about, what he thought was a good idea. You know what I mean? And he didn't write the words. He had a libretto, a guy that wrote, where they adapted a story. I think, or like with the Marriage of Figueroa, that was a play before he did it into an opera, before he added music. But the libretto fills in the words. But he chose what that opera was about. He chose it. I feel like, I want to say, or maybe his libretto did, but either way, you kind of get an idea of the kind of person he is. Obviously, he felt emotions very deeply, and he was a very human, had a deep affection for humanity and the human. Like, that's what I get, because that music, it's so, I mean, the lowest lows and the highest highs. Like, there are points when I listen to that music where I feel like Odysseus passing the sirens. Legitimately, it's like an eargasm. And it reminds me of opiates, how it makes you not nod out, but it's almost like, you focus on the feeling, and it's not that you nod out, you just become sort of oblivious to everything but what you're focusing on, that good feeling. And that's kind of what I was getting from some of this music. Like, I put in AirPods because I was listening to it on my stereo. And I put in AirPods, and you know how they actually sound amazing. And I just like every time in this song where a woman hit this certain note, it like made my head, like, or my mouth kind of drop open, just like it just, it was weird, very weird, but kind of reminded me of when you put a Q-tip in your ear, how good that feels, like that, similar to that. And then, like, the male parts where he's singing deep from his chest, like, I can't help but sing it. I can't help it. I don't even understand what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand the words, but I cannot help it. I can't help it. It's so good. I get why those operas were such a big hit and why they still do them today, because they're incredibly infectious. They're funny too. They're funny, and I think I was thinking to myself when I just watched it for the first time about a week ago, and there was maybe a good 10 minutes of that movie where or maybe probably a good dozen times where I laughed out loud because was so happy, sort of like got such a good feeling from this music that I laughed out loud. And I mean, and I definitely, I'm not trying to like get all cliche or anything, but like truly, and the music is so good and there's so much of it. Like I was laughing because it's like, wow, I've only heard 10 minutes of this opera so far. It's incredible. And I'm thinking, I was laughing. The first few times was like, wow, like I actually have like 2 hours and 45 minutes of this left. Wow. Like awesome. And also, I don't ever have to worry about anybody bastardizing this music, which is really comforting to me. And it's such good music. I remember when I was younger, when I was in middle school, I got into the Beatles. I don't even know why. I was listening to all kinds of stuff, and I finally got to the Beatles, and it was like it was eye opening. And I remember I spent like a whole school year listening to the Beatles. And I remember kind of it feeling like profoundly sad that black people and other peoples would never understand, would never really get those moments and they would never, they were missing out on that. Well, like that like I really did, like in comparison, I didn't feel that way when I was listening to Mozart, but I was thinking like I feel it feels good to be sort of in on it, because I never could figure it out. Like, what's so good? I never liked it. Now it's like I kind of understand. And now I have I'm not sort of just going with the flow when I say, yeah, Mozart is amazing, as I did most of my life. Only a fool would say a Mozart sucks. He clearly doesn't. But like I genuinely feel that way, and I could point you to like five great songs that that I can't tell you what the name means. Uh, there's a few of them, but like I'm just so like I'm really I feel like the future is bright because there's so much Western stuff that I haven't read yet that and I can't wait to read it. I think this stuff is we're on the precipice of a sort of a revival for this stuff. People are going to turn away from the slop. They're going to turn away from because nothing good and new is coming out. And it's almost like being replenished. It's like we're out of human feelings and human thoughts. We're out of observations, new fresh observations, and now it's time to go back through, where it's like we're sort of out of ideas. Well, now it's time to go back through our discography, go back through our no, I forget what they call it, our library. I forget, they call it with streaming content too. I forget your back cat or your catalog. And get back into that because we've gotten away from a lot of things that used to be understood, like assisted suicide, bro. We we have allowed ourselves to sort of forget things that used to go without saying because nobody says those things. Nobody talks about those things. And either we get back to our roots or I think it's over. Like honestly, I think it's over. We have assisted suicides, we have uh women uh sort of championing the single life, and it's just that's not good. It's not these aren't it's not a positive thing. I seen something about this Monica, I guess Monica Lewinsky has a podcast, and it's been in the news recently. and about this woman that she had on, who said she didn't even know that women went, that women couldn't have kids after like when they were in their 40s. And it's like, well, duh, well, derpy. But I guess they didn't tell people that back then, apparently.
They don't have multi-party elections.
Because Emily Jashinsky, she touches on like 3 or 4 things that I honestly talk about. This one is a good one. It's about the DSA. I'll save it for them. Because they were on a podcast with a Cuban guy who just they didn't look very smart. Anyway, here's the one I was just talking about. Monica Lewinsky.
Watch this clip of Allison Janney on Monica Lewinsky's podcast. Wild sentence to say, but Allison Janney weighing in actually before AOC, if my timing's correct. This episode of the Lewinsky podcast came out, and
yeah, AOC just did the freezing eggs thing. Yeah, that was a political stunt. She showed her midriff on TV or something like that to the country. That's for solidarity with women, American women. That's so, that they can all commiserate together about freezing their eggs. That's what it is. She's trying to bolster her bona fides with the liberal white women crowd, I guess. Childless white women crowd.
Started going viral. It came out a few days before AOC now famously lifted her shirt and jabbed herself in the process of freezing her eggs, asking people not to be weird about it. She is a sitting congresswoman, though, of course, who just exposed her midriff to the world. But let's take a listen to Allison Janney on that process as she experienced it.
I knew I never wanted to have kids. That just is something that I've
but
always
then there was
known.
A period where you did, or you
no,
just
I
thought,
didn't.
like,
I just thought, well, I better. If I should just try at least right here. I went to a fertility person.
Sorry about that. Forgot. I changed some things up. I'm trying to get better. Really, that's what the deal is. There we go.
And they were like, "Oh, you're pretty kind of over the hill." I was like, "Oh, really? I thought women could have kids." So I was sort of under the impression that kids. That just is something that I've
but
always
then there was
known.
A period where you did, or you
no,
just
I
thought,
didn't.
like,
I just thought, well, I better. If I should just try at least right here. I went to a fertility person, and they were like, "Oh, you're pretty kind of over the hill." I was like, "Oh, really? I thought women could have kids." So I was sort of under the impression that women could have kids till they were 50 or something.
You know what's funny? Women can have kids till they're 50. And women historically could have kids until they were 50. But that's because they spent their entire life having children. When you have 15 children throughout your life, that's 9 eggs per pregnancy that are saved. 9 eggs. So that's almost one. You're postponing menopause by almost 1 full year for every child you have. And back in the 1800s, half of women's children might have died, especially in places like France with childbed fever childbed fever. And yeah, those women could have children into their 50s. But you women, you're letting all of your eggs just bleed out of you. You're not using them. So yeah, of course, you are really hard on your bodies. As hard as women were back then. Like, and I find it weird that this isn't really talked about. That like, yeah, you're only burning through 1 egg a month when you're not pregnant. And back then, when like there's a movie that I watch about the life of Louis Pasteur. His wife, and what's crazy, at the beginning of the movie, they have 3 kids, like an 8-year-old girl, like a 6-year-old boy, and a 3-year-old girl. And then it kind of fast forwards into the guy's life, and then they have 1 daughter all of a sudden. They don't even say anything. At the beginning of the movie, the house is full of children. The end of the movie, when everybody, they have 1 grown-up child. Because it was in France. And childbed fever, like I think 1/3 of all their women died in childbirth. Like, yeah, their women would have like, they struggled with when they would find out they were pregnant, because there's a good chance they were going to die. Could you imagine living? Oh, bro, bro. It doesn't matter, wife or husband, both are that's too much. And we're lucky. We get away with asking a lot from life. We expect a lot out of life. And back then, you just weren't able to expect that. It was a lot to expect your wife to survive. I mean, it was a lot to expect to have 3 healthy kids and they all survived. Like, that wasn't going to happen. Like, people expect to have to no they're going to have every one of their pregnancies, and those kids are all going to die of they're going to die of their natural causes. And it's like, we're lucky. We get to ask a lot of life. Back then, they didn't. You kind of you rolled the dice and you took what you got. You took what you got. And you just, like, the women found a way to live with it. They found a way. I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Yearling or read the book. And the mother in the story, which is it takes place like an hour from my house in the 1800s, Volusia County, Florida. It used, but anyway, the mother, she treats the boy like shit. She's cold and bitter to him, and like, she treats him really bad. And Gregory Peck's the father, and he like has to make up for it. Has to constantly remind his son that it's not her fault and she went through a lot. Yeah, because she had to bury like the 5 other kids before him. And she got to the point where she had invested love and emotion into the first few kids and got burned so hard that she refused to invest in her children anymore. And that's why she was bitter and would snap at her kid. And I mean, she was guarding herself, trying to keep herself from going insane from the hurt and the pressure. And like, that's really difficult to deal with that. But all these things, it's going to take people like me thinking about the future and figuring out new ways, because I don't think marriage is coming back. I don't think car culture is coming back. Or like dating car culture. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's just gone. And like, if we want to continue, we're going to have to figure out new ways of doing stuff. Going to have to figure out new ways for people to meet up and pair up and, to have kids, new ways of socializing, and new ways to find community and get things done, get through life. We got to find new ways. It's either the institution is worth saving and possible to save, then people should spend time saving it. Or we need new people worrying about finding new ways. Welcome, brother. Thank you for following. People finding new ways to replace the ways that are gone, that are no longer viable, that can no longer be used. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the way I see it anyhow. And that's kind of the whole point, like what I was getting at, like at the beginning, is I think there's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot to be gained by thinking ahead right now. And figuring out the winners and the losers. And I don't think it's that hard either. It's not really fortune telling. I mean, just read the way things are trending. And I think there's a lot of different lanes too, especially for the future. Like, we're going to need a lot of different specialists, people doing a lot of different things. And especially with the left. Like, dude, they're so good at gathering and collectivizing. You know, every time I bring up something like that, every time I talk about, guys, we're dropping the ball, we're not voting. I just get, and understandably so, I get condescension or uh, sarcasm, pessimism, and I think it's more like conservative. I think it's people are very disillusioned and demoralized, and I absolutely agree. Like I've seen, GQ, he's pretty burned out. There's a lot of guys. I think Goldie's rather burned out. It's like, and it's understandable. Maybe they're right. Maybe, but they're usually talking about some specific circumstance. And it's like, okay, well, forget about that one then. Find something else. Find something else that you can be happy or content investing your effort and time into. Because it's gonna like it's gonna take effort. It's gonna take planning. It's gonna take ingenuity, wit, tact.
I don't know why I thought that.
This is not something we're taught, like to be in charge of our fertility.
Yeah,
to
no,
even understand. I didn't know until a friend of mine went into early menopause at 40.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was possible.
I just think it's so funny how they're like, she went into early menopause at 40. And they're like, we didn't even know that happened. Yeah, it didn't used to happen. And they're like, why haven't we been taught this? Because nobody expected you and your generation of women to wait until you were in your 40s. Like people said, go start a career, but like they didn't say become a workaholic. I mean, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, and nobody realized that that's what was going to happen. So yeah, no crap that you never heard that before, because nobody expected you to be stupid enough to wait till you were in your 40s before you lifted your head up and ever even thought about it. How stupid. It's dumb, genuinely dumb.
Possible.
Yeah, they didn't teach us anything about our bodies growing up.
It's both bonkers, and then you look at all the misogyny in the world and you go, yeah, I understand why. But
yeah, the first I heard that I wouldn't be able to have a kid at 40 something was in this fertility doctor's office. She was like, the odds are not in your favor. My true love in my world, besides my friends and family, are dogs. That's
okay.
And
that's a good thing. It's a good thing. And this next one is a Cuban guy, and he just kind of shreds these DSA idiots. Pretty sweet.
Elections, which is a real problem. I also think we don't.
CBS News poll out on Sunday, Democrats have a dramatic.
I'll skip their commentary. Tell me if this guy is Mexican.
Let's take a listen.
Do you believe that Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, that they are dictatorships?
He's Mexican, but that's the whitest, most European Mexican I've ever seen in my life. And I want to talk about this after this real quick.
For us, expanding democracy, the small d democratic part of democratic socialism is core to what we stand for. And
is Cuba a dictatorship for you?
I think in the United States, it's hard for us to judge other countries being dictatorships when we have Donald Trump as president.
Let me go back to Cuba. Do you think Cuba is a dictatorship?
There are things that the Cuban people themselves would want to change in their own system, but it's hard to do that when the blockade.
Megan, I don't know if you want to.
I can jump in. So I've been to Cuba 3 times. I was not talking to people who were like, big advocates of the Cuban government. But they did say that the issue is the blockade.
But clearly, since 1959, they haven't had multi-party elections. There's censorship, political prisoners. Do you believe that Cuba is a dictatorship, Megan?
I believe that Cubans have access to their democracy in a way that we do not. For example, I think the Families Code was just sort of an incredible demonstration of popular democracy. And also, no, they don't have multi-party elections, which is a real problem. I also think we don't have access to our Constitution in ways that are really problematic. We're on like 50 years of the ERA not being passed.
We
What the hell
haven't
is
passed
the
the
ERA?
ERA, so we can't judge.
What the hell is even the ERA, honestly? But I just kind of want, that was pretty fast. I want to play it one more time. This woman is an idiot.
Political prisoners. Do you believe that Cuba is a dictatorship, Megan?
I believe that.
Why can't she just say it?
The Cubans have access to their democracy in a way that we do not. For example, I think the Families Code.
Oh, what, like not being able to throw the, like they can't throw the incumbent political, they can't vote out the current regime. Oh, they have access to things we don't, do they?
Was just sort of an incredible demonstration of popular democracy. And also, no, they don't have multi-party elections, which is a real problem. I also think we don't have access to our constitution in ways that are really problematic. We're on like 50 years of the ERA not being passed.
We haven't passed.
You know, I'll tell you what really, like earlier today, I was thinking about this. It really bothers me. Like, we were sold like, oh, we need Mexicans, we need immigrants to do the jobs nobody else wants to do. We need these people, blah, blah, blah. So these people come in. And now these people are collectivizing and trying to kick us out, trying to strip our country from us. So let me get this straight. We bring in a population of poor people, of third worlders to do our dirty work. We bring in enough of them to where, you know, they are actually starting to, you know, take, like, strong arm us politically. How stupid could this country be? And we knew it. We knew this was going to happen. We knew this was going to happen. And now we have Indian people, brown people that want to radically change the face of America. They want to strip out everything, all the traditions. They want to turn it into some shithole. They want to turn it into a third world shithole that, like, they came from. They want to get rid of, like, this guy, he bitches about the two-party system. And I get it, but it's like, bro, if you don't like the way we do things here, there are other places that do it differently already. Seriously. It's like, bro, this, if it needs to change, that's up to us. We decide when that happens. We don't need a bunch of brown people, a bunch of foreign people to make our decisions for us. And it's hard not to let this get to you, or for this not to get to me. It's very difficult because it's such a self-inflicted wound. I mean, could there be more self-inflicted wound? It's just like we just stepped on our own Johnson and then ground it into concrete until it was like just nothing, just nothing, until it was gone. It's so dumb. So dumb.
The ERA, so we can't judge Cuba, is the take in that clip. And I'm being a bit facetious, but it is interesting to see because I think this younger generation of Democrats or people who vote Democrat, maybe they don't consider themselves Democrats, maybe they consider themselves socialists or democratic socialists. The poll was just of socialism versus capitalism, which is interesting enough. Ramos, by the way, he did this really famous interview with Fidel Castro. He's Mexican, though. He's not Cuban. I said he was Cuban earlier, but he's covered Cuba for a really long time and has confronted Castro. And then here he is in front of two young leftists that are chairing the DSA.
Why is it so impossible for them to just call a spade and say, yeah, I don't want to, like, they have a crappy system. I'm not looking to model it. Like, what's the big deal? How stupid. But it's like, you know, I think a lot of what that is they want to seem ideologically pure. It's for validation. You know, they are not waffling because they're not waffling because it makes them look bad to everybody, the public. They're waffling because it will make them look bad with leftists and communists. They will, you know what I mean? Like they won't be the best communist. But it's so obvious. It's simple and they know it. It's not like they don't know this. But it's like they've spent so much time praising all of this stuff, how great it is. It's hard for them to do it, I guess. But, and also, you know, a lot of this decolonization crap, you know, a lot of this decolonization started with like South America and Central America overthrowing the Spanish out, you know, kicking them out. And all of the decolonization, you know what it is? It's literally the European, the white aristocracy, the white upper class, the European upper class wanting to kick the colonizers out or wanting to kick European powers out like Spain so that they could have, you know, sole rights to harvesting their own peasants, their own peasant class, so that they reap all of the taxes, so that when the blood of their peasant class or of their lower class is sucked, they get to drink it all. None of it goes to England. And we're dealing with that right now. A bunch of scumbags, like when, I don't know if any of you guys watched the England-Mexico game in FIFA. Bro, so eye-opening for me. Big time. Dude, I hadn't seen that many blue-eyed Mexicans in my life combined, bro. Like on that team, there was like double the blue-eyed Mexicans that I've seen in my entire life were on that team. And you know, it occurred to me, oh, see, we only see a certain subsect of Mexican society here in America. We only see their lower class, their peon class or peon class. The ones that are Mayans and Aztecs that are like really Indian looking, that are, you know, they're built like mini fridges, you know, those ones. Even their women are built like mini fridges, but they come here. We don't get to see their ruling class, their ruling elite. They're a bunch of Europeans, bro. A bunch of blue-eyed, straight up Europeans. You never see those people in America. Never. Bro, you don't even see those people in life, period. And all of a sudden, they're on the Mexico FIFA team. Damn right, there ain't no Indian peons on the FIFA team. Of course, it's going to be the rich, basically gringos, that run that country, that still hold all the cards and run the show. Same thing with South America. And we're getting stomped on by the boot heel that they sort of stirred up. They stirred this whirlwind up. And it's just like, good Lord. You know, so that they could take advantage of those people. Honestly. I mean, there's so many more Europeans in Mexico than I realized. So many more, like that guy, Jorge Ramos.
And they can't seem to clearly, like, I'm friends with leftists. A lot of them will tell you, like, Cuba has its own, like, they are jailing dissidents.
Yeah, it's not good. Like, it's objectively not good. Yeah, I have the whole version of that. I just wanted you guys to see his daughter's what she looks like, and a little bit more closer what he looks like.
For all mean a chic. So today we're gonna do that.
Bro, that's his daughter. Dude, that woman and her dad, they're whiter than me. People are whiter than me, bro. Like, it's crazy. They're well hid, man.
We're going to have a conversation with the two DSA national co-chairs. We're going to be joined by Megan Romer and
I think she's a bit of a kind of a militant. She looks like a militant woman to me. You know what I'm saying?
Hola, I'm Jorge Ramos.
And I'm Paula Ramos.
And this is...
You know, the Spanish, though, they have a very certain look. Like European Spanish. They don't look like they have a very specific look. And what's crazy is like this guy, he looks like one of the explorers that explored the New World. Like when you see paintings of them or renditions of them, that's what they look like. Their eyes, they have a lot of them have red hair too, or red beards. Like they have a very specific look.
The moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Bit militant. I mean, anyway, that's what she looks like to me. It's such a shame too, man. And I don't have the stuff at hand right now, but someday I'm gonna get into these lifestyles, these alternate lifestyles, and how, you know. And what's funny is Roshin, that's how you say it, I believe so. But you know, when you said that like a week or two ago, when you were like, you know, no, this is just that's a modern slang term for sodomy. You know, I was thinking about it, like, you know, I'm pretty sure, like, I'm not looking for a fight or anything, but I think, like, gay men are just straight men that have somehow, they've gotten they've gotten political power. They outrank me, like they're on the victim hierarchy. And like, I'm kind of to the point where it's like, bro, I don't really believe any of that stuff anymore. I think it's all a bunch of garbage. I think there is no difference between men. I think we're all the same. It's kind of, behaviors and habits. Those are totally behaviors and habits don't make a person. And they're totally habits can be broken. Behaviors can be started and stopped on a whim. They're not genetic. And I don't believe that anymore. And I know, there's people that watch the show that, are going to have a problem with me saying that, but it's like, I don't really see I don't believe it anymore. And I don't believe there's a difference anymore. And I don't really want to hear that from gay men, hear anything from them anymore. It's like, bro, I'm not going to let, that person lecture me. It's like, bro, you chose your life. You chose your behavior. You get to live with the consequences. And I mean, I'm not trying to like bash anybody. I'm just saying, it's like, you're not better than me. And I don't owe, like, and nobody has ever said anything like that to me before, but it's like, you see how they wield as a gay man, and they wield it like a cudgel. Yeah, no, bro. I can literally say that I could say that myself and say, and now I have moral superiority over a bunch of people. It's like, nah, I don't, no, not buying it. And the same thing with the women too. I think these are a bunch of, it's like a cult almost, a bunch of people playing pretend or doing things that they want to do, but it doesn't make them different, like genetically or mentally. I mean, that's just the way I'm starting to see it, and a lot of these modern, the all the victim identities and stuff, they're practically pathologies. They're like almost disorders, but not really. They're just trendy new, it's almost like fad clothing that's a fad, or styles, how styles change. that's what it feels like to me. Like all of this stuff is a big ruse to get us to bend over and grab our ankles and allow them to screw us, allow all these different victim groups to screw us. And, like people wonder why Indians and Arabs, they, they steal from us, they yell race. Why do people steal instead of work for something? Why is it when, we build something and they just steal it and they don't build anything themselves. They just steal from us. Well, because it's easier. What's up, Alex, my brother? Because it's easier. And it's literally an evolutionary strategy. If another tribe builds something or comes up with an idea, it's easier for you just to look over their shoulder and copy everything they do than to do it yourself. Am I wrong? And that's what's being done to us. These people, they are, our governments will give them healthcare and let them come here, so they do it because it's easier. And they can't do that in their country. But they don't have this. They don't have a lot of things we have, or they don't work for things like we do because they don't need to. They have us. They have us. We do all the hard work for them. They don't invent anything for I mean, dude, we discovered all of the Arabs' oil. Like they didn't even do their own discovery. And they're screwing us right now. They're doing the same thing. And we're letting them. How stupid. I mean, you see what's up with China. They're legitimately stealing everything. And they're not doing it the same as the Arabs where like they're moving here and taking jobs or property or whatever. But they're taking intellectual property because it's easier than figuring it out themselves. It's hard to come up with your own ideas and ways, ways of doing things. It's much easier if somebody else does it. You have somebody that will do it for you. And that's what we've been doing. And it's like, when are we going to wise up? Or when are we going to get serious and play as if we have something to lose? Like with these Arabs and stuff, they, especially in England, raping white women and stuff, they do all this crap. Well, why don't we transgress against them? Like I'm considering whether or not I should post Muhammad. And just, bro, like if we in unison as an entire culture or as a country or as my audience, like if we transgress against these people, like we have to do it some way. They're doing it to us, and we can't launch a crusade. That's not an option. We need to get a lot more intentional and deliberate with everything. And the fact that we've lost all of the social spaces, especially male social spaces, we're not getting together and strategizing, getting together. Like, I don't know if any of you guys ever seen that movie Shane, but it's a Western, but it's about these people that are, they have a cattle baron trying to run them off their land. And they can't travel alone because the cattle baron's men will single them out and beat them up or kill them. So they have to travel in bunches, but they meet every Friday to figure out what they're going to do so they can present a united front. That's what people do when they want to win. When there's absolutely no or when you absolutely 100% cannot fail, when success, you have no choice but to win, you do what you got to do. And people don't feel that way, obviously. They don't. And I feel like what is it about modernity where people, I guess capitalism or individualism, people just want to focus on their own lookout, their kids or feeding themselves. Nobody wants to collectivize, at least not conservative. Everybody's like, I'm just going to worry about myself, all that. Like, it's, the leftists, they're down with the cause, but we're not. And it's like, what is it about modernity that does that? Is it because, like, what it is about capitalism and going to supermarket, like, consumerism that is so, that it's not possible to have convictions. Like, no, Americans don't have convictions. Americans, I'd be willing to bet most Americans, there's nothing they're willing to die for. I mean, the parents, their kids, but think about how many Americans don't have kids now. And people, I think most Americans aren't willing to die for anything or anyone. And they're not willing to, they wouldn't be willing to spend a night in jail for anyone or anything. That's a shame because the people that we're up against, they are willing to do that. It's like because we live in America where we vote, it's become really easy for us to be lazy or just to do the bare minimum. Like we used to have really, really impressive charities and churches. And like we are by far the most charitable nation on the planet, individually and collectively, like because we had social clubs, the Moose Lodge, Rotary clubs where people took up collections. But we put so many shirts on brown kids' backs, fed so many of them. And all of that's when we voted for Social Security and all that stuff, or when we voted for foreign aid, when we voted for the government to do all those things, now people don't donate any of their money. Private citizens, I pay taxes. I pay taxes. I've said it. I guarantee any of you, for sure, the boomers have all said that once in their life. I won't hear anything else. I won't hear you guys argue with me on that one. I don't believe it. And we used to have a really, really robust, like when people were down and out, their community would rally around them and hold and carry them and make sure they didn't go without. But now, that's why we pay our taxes, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, man, since then that happened, we've just, like, we're not in good shape because of that. Nobody's willing to do anything extra. Nothing extra. So it's like there's not a whole lot to work with. So it's like you have to get clever and ingenious. And that's why I brought up like the Muhammad thing. Because it's like, how can people, people are looking for a way to take a stand, but they don't know how. And that's why the Bud Light thing was a big deal. Seriously. Because people they felt like they could do something about it. They could actually contribute. I guess maybe things aren't bad enough for us. Like we have to wait for things to get worse, but it's like things are going to get worse because we aren't willing to do anything extra, because we don't socialize, because we don't have but the left does do those things. That's why for sure, we're going to get to the point where we're going to need to learn how to do this and exercise that muscle. Like, we don't have a choice. Maybe not right this second. It's not pressing. But bro, how many things do you like? There's a lot of things that like are obviously not going to keep for like we're going to have to deal with them in the next 15 years, 20 years, whether we like it or not. And it's like, we're lazy and we're going to procrastinate and pretend that everything is fine until we're like England or Britain, until it's almost or basically too late. And where we're all on pins and needles on the edge of our seat, whether or not we can even, figure it out. That's what's going to happen. And, it's like, I guess there's not much that you can say. I mean, it's like, what are we supposed to do? It's hard to get people involved, especially people that they're already like propping up society, whatever society and societal institutions we still have, people have to live their lives to hold them up. They have to go to work and pay their taxes and feed their kids. Otherwise, that stuff doesn't work. So it's like, yeah, we're in a tough spot here. Tough spot. Although a lot of men don't like young men, they don't have jobs and stuff. It's like they're just gonna have to, like, we're gonna have to figure this out. That's what I mean. Is it's like either something is a lost cause and it doesn't deserve our attention and our thought and our worrying and our concern. And if that's the case, we need to cut it loose, cut the losses, cut our losses and walk away. Let's focus on the things we can fix, the things we can salvage. And let's start thinking outside of the box. How can we do this? How do we have to think? It's really, it's a good idea to think deliberately like this. Think about it out loud, because that's how you figure it out. That's how, especially with other people, brainstorming. Okay, and that woman, Clancy, yeah, she's going to spend the rest of her life in an institution. Like I wasn't even thinking about that, but last night it hit me like, even if she gets let off, she will never be free. She'll spend the rest of her life in an institution, 100%. And rightfully so. I was watching yesterday, I watched like 45-minute documentary, as it were, about the East India Trading Company and the British Raj in India. And it was from the start, from like the English charter from the crown, giving them a monopoly on trade from India, and how they got their foot in the door, and then how they, wrested the whole country, the whole subcontinent away from its own people, and the biggest empire, or like a quarter of the manufacturing of the planet, like a quarter of all the wealth of the planet, they took it from them and a lot of people. And, the main takeaway from that whole colonization of India by the British was asset stripping. Asset stripping. What they have done to the Western world over the last 30 years is what they did to India. And when they did it, when they stripped India, they killed like 10 million. They caused a couple of pretty gnarly famines that killed a lot of people. More people than died in Europe from the Black Death. But there's still arguing, like there's a lot of debate about how bad it was, whether or not it was, the British did they did a lot of bad stuff, but asset stripping. And it really pissed me off, because it's like, bro, it's like the West we have done, like our elites have just spent the last 300 or 400 years asset stripping the world. And it's like once they ran out of other countries to asset strip, they moved on to our countries. And sometimes I see these brown people and how they talk about basically stripping our country away from us, more or less. I think to myself, like, are politicians like these bastards? Like, are they trying to give away my country or my birthright? Are they trying to give away this our country? And then it hits. I think to myself, wait a second. Is it actually my country or our country, or have we just been led to believe that's the case? And are these people that I feel like are trying to take my country from me? Are they just idiot patsies that are walking into a booby trap, like an enslavement booby trap? It's possible that, this country is nothing more than more or less like a corporation with a captive herd of human beings attached. Like, it, there's question as to whether or not there's anything worth if what we think is our country and all the what everybody's so fierce, like the flag and everything that we're fiercely defensive of, if that any of that stuff even exists anymore in earnest, or if it's all just in our imagination, or how it used to be and we just haven't realized it's changed. But are these people actually getting a good deal when they come here, or are they getting screwed? you know like I don't know, and the jury's still out on that. I'm just kind of wondering. Something else I learned about when I was watching something on the Crusades today. you know it was like the Crusades was expensive for noblemen and knights that went on crusade. So, and what they did, a lot of them, they didn't have the cash to raise weapons and funds and uh, soldiers. So the monasteries, the monks and the church, well, the monks, they held all the gold in these castle monasteries, and they cut the noblemen a deal. The noblemen would put up their land. They would put up their land for cash. And you know what it was called? It was called a death pledge. And I think it was in French or Italian, which translates to mortgage. Mortgage. That comes from the Crusades. Mortgage comes from the Crusades, and it means death pledge. That shit is creepy. And it was like, if they died on crusade, the monastery claimed their assets, claimed their land and their title, basically. But that's where mortgage comes from, the Crusades. It means death pledge. Is that not crazy? Longshanks' brother died on crusade, Edward Longshanks. I didn't know that. That's crazy. Oh, I know. I love that stuff too. Chile. I mean, that's why I love language. I at heart, like, my strength is language. It always, like, I'm good at math, but all through school, like, I got 100% of the test questions on the standardized tests in English right. I've always had this thing with language. I wish that I had had the ability to have been taught, like, if I was around other people that spoke other languages, I could probably learn a language really quick today, which, I kind of am doing that to some degree with Latin and other languages. But anyway, yeah, I love that stuff, finding out where words came from and whatnot. But that mortgage one is kind of creepy, you know? And I guess that is what a house is. It's like You could take out a mortgage. You're basically saying, I'm paying this. If I don't pay, either I'm paying this or I'm dead. If I stop paying it, it means I'm dead. Call the cops. Right, though? For real. That's a good way to look at it. I mean, I don't know if it's really sad, but it's just like, it's realistic. Honestly, it's realistic. Right? The way that I see it anyway. And it's not, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. But anyway, and that's why that's why I say I think we're on the edge of like a new renaissance or a rediscovery of things, because there's a lot of things that we're being screwed right now because because people don't know history. There's a lot of tricks and skullduggery that is taking place that has happened in the past, and that there's a way to fix it. Like that problems that we've solved before. And that's all I'm saying is, and I feel like we're on the cusp of figuring that stuff out. We're on the cusp of moving past that stuff, or going back, and because like I said, we're already stagnant. We're not producing new stuff. That's why I say we're on the cusp of a rebirth, because we've run out of steam. At least America's run out of steam. We don't produce any new art anymore, and we were the font of art of the West. Nobody else in Western culture was producing anything anymore. We were the last ones. Now we're done. So we need to go back and entrench, cement this stuff that we've learned over the past few hundred years. Go back, go back through everything we learned, and the stuff that is pertinent will stand out to us. If we go back and look through everything, all of the good knowledge that we need right now, it will be obvious when you're looking through history. And like, this happens to me all the time. I will find out something, or I'll read something about history, and I'll say, wow, damn. And that, like, most of the stuff I talk about, that's like the mortgage. This is what I'm saying. There's a lot of wisdom that we've left on the table. You get me? We need to rediscover this, get back to our roots, because we're being screwed in a lot of different ways right now that we don't have. Like, and it's because we're sort of oblivious. We've been so focused on capitalism and buying material stuff, so focused on this, that, and the other. Well, now a lot of people, don't have anything else to do anyway. So it's like we need to start figuring out, how to pick ourselves back up. Because nobody's going to figure that out for us. Certainly not. It's obvious that, we need to start thinking about this stuff. Maybe it's not something we like have to do right this second, but I think it would be wise if we started thinking along these lines. Hang on. Also, how often do you guys get hit with ads on here? Because honestly, I have no idea how often the ads are, but I'm thinking about starting putting breaks in the stream and doing scheduled ads, like every hour do an ad, or do like a minute of ads, or like 3 minute of ads. Go use the bath. Everybody kind of go freshen up, and then come back. That way, you guys sort of know when the ads are coming, and you know what I mean. We could plan for them, and you know what I mean. But I don't know how often they play. I have no idea anyway. But I'm trying to figure that out, how I can do that, because I'm starting to like I see that's how a lot of other people do it. They schedule the ads for like once every hour. It's like 3 minutes of ads or whatever, once every hour. But you know, like I would like it would be nice. I want to get better and actually because that makes it's a better experience. It's a better experience for you guys. You know what I'm saying? Like it. I get it. You know, I don't like commercials either. You know, and so but there's a way to ameliorate that. You know, these are long streams. I know you guys don't just sit there for 3 hours. And I've heard a few people say, you know, that hopefully the commercials don't come when I'm cooking, but I've heard people say that a few times, like, you know, frustrating. I didn't even realize they have side by side ads now, so you don't even have to miss anything, but the ads, like, it's crazy that they do that. But not only that, but I'm not making any money off these ads. You know, like right now I'm trying to build my audience back up. I was like, I think I probably am going to stop doing ads soon. I might stop doing them this week. I was thinking about that before I went live. What's the point? You know, if I only get if this only 500 people view the stream in the first few days or the first, like if it, not even that much, but only 500 people view it, you know, that's like $1 something, you know, it's not very much money. And I'm wondering if it wouldn't be better just to not do any ads at all and just, like, um, like encourage memberships or something, or don't do any odds at all or ads at all, and then you know, build the audience up. I don't know. Just occurred to me that why it's not like it's not like when I was streaming Nick where I get like maybe like $10 a stream about that, like 1,000 people viewing it every 20 minutes or so. Oh, okay. And what's cool, like I can postpone ads. If I want, I can tell YouTube not to do any ads for an hour. Maybe it's up to 30 minutes or an hour, one of those two. But I can also tell it to do ads. Like if I want to take a break, I can hit a thing and it'll automatically load an ad for you. You know, but I've seen some people, what they do is they have the break and the ad, like they have a macro where when every hour there's a break, they want a break to use the bathroom or whatever, and then it also triggers a commercial, and it puts a little message in the chat telling everybody that a break's about to happen. I don't know. I've just been looking into this stuff and thinking, you know, maybe I should consider this stuff or implement some of these things. You know, it makes for a better show, better experience. And a lot of the technical difficulties that I've been having lately are because I'm trying different stuff. You know, trying best, trying my best. Actually, I kind of wanted to go over you guys' comments a little bit. What you guys are saying. You know, and like another thing, like the fact that we have AI right now, we have no excuse. Like people should be any, I want to say leisure time, but any sort, like, you know, you should have a solid chunk of learning, like study hall or whatever every day, you know, no matter what. Like maybe even if it's on the toilet with your phone. I think that's I think that's something that is healthy too, especially with brain rot that goes on nowadays with, you know, TikTok and whatnot. Oh, night train, jeez. Well, you know, I just think, you know, it's like there was a movement where everybody, oh, society, it's so oppressive. Shame, it's so oppressive. We want to do what we want to do is, you know, individualism, screw what everybody wants you to do, screw what your parents expect. You know, we don't have a duty to anybody. And well, I guess people didn't realize how much of our society, our culture, how much of what made us great, made America great, that what made the West great was in those social, the cultural uh standards and the shame and the pressure to conform. Like, that's what made the West great. That's what made America great, was that everybody kind of did their duty. Women had their kids, got married, men got married, whether they were gay or not. I mean, even hundreds of years ago in France, if people they if the like if your parents arranged you gave you had an arranged marriage, like people would get married, do their duty, and then if it wasn't working out, or if they weren't happy, or they didn't like their husband or wife, they would have an affair, and that was acceptable. It was just how it was done. You paid your dues when it came to the family and the society, and and guys in America used to have the goods, and in Britain used to have the good sense to have kids and start a family before they did that stuff. And like even in China, I've heard that the Asians that have like the ladyboy thing, even they don't do it their whole lives. They might do it when they're young, and then they get married and have a family at some point, apparently. But those things, that was what made our culture and society so vigorous and so hardy, robust. That's why we could wage huge wars like World War II, because everybody chipped in and did their duty, did what was expected of them. I mean, straight up. And it's kind of funny. Like when I was 20 and all the young women of my age were like, when because there was a point when I was like 20 when I would like try to convince them, like, no, you got to do your duty. Like that's you, like you need to have your kid. Like you have to have kids. You're the women that you all have to have kids, just like we do, men do. We're supposed to get married and have kids. Well, man, I don't know. It was once or twice I had knockdown, drag out arguments with girls I went to school with, and where they were just basically I got tongue lashing about uh how they didn't owe anybody anything, and there was no duty incumbent upon them. They could do whatever they wanted and this and that. And it's like I got chewed out like once, like two good times, and unfriended on Facebook. And then I contented myself with it. I said, well, that's just the way things are. That's their prerogative, and no sense crying. Like I'm not gonna worry about something that, like, bro, I'm not losing sleep over the collapse of the West, the collapse of America. I'm not losing sleep over any of this shit. Like I care, but I'm not losing sleep. I'd like to be a part of the solution. Certainly, I don't want to be a part of the problem, but other people are hell bent to destroy this society. I mean, or I could be equally as hell bent. All happens is I crash out on my streams and look like a nutcase. That's all. That's all that I accomplish. And that's good and all for clicks or whatever, but like I'm over that stuff. But it's so funny. They gave me that spiel, and then now they're 30 something and they're trying to give me that spiel. It's your duty, blah, 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 this and that. And I'm like thinking to myself, like, hey, you killed this argument. You destroyed your own argument that you're trying to marshal against me. You destroyed it. I used that very same argument, and it was, you didn't give a damn. You didn't want to hear anything about it. Well, it's your prerogative, and you get to live with it. Like you get to live with it. That's on you. It is what it is. You can lead a horse to water, and I'll be damned. Like if I get married and have kids, it certainly isn't going to be with a woman that's 30 or 35. No, no, sorry. I love, there's too many other things that I love, that I live, like that I alone, I like, give me the will to live. And I would have to give up those things for somebody else's leavings. No, thank you. It's not even worth it. Like, I don't care about, I mean, it would be nice to project genetics into the future, but no, I don't care. Not like that. I mean, who cares? I'll be dead. It's acceptable. But the only thing I ever have lived for was like learning. Faust, I think that character might be the most relatable and the most the character I see myself most in. That to me, the character the Western literature character that I identify with the most is Faust. Although I wouldn't go as far as him, but he sells his soul to the devil to learn everything there is to learn. I mean, not gonna lie, like that's me. That's really what motivates me is learning. Like even, streaming, learning how to use the software and stuff. Like I enjoy it. I like learning skills. I like learning things that people find interesting or that I find interesting. And, I like talking about it. Always have. And like having a family, that would be pretty awesome because I would get to like, mold and shape, people and teach would be awesome. But, you know, life is, there's a lot, there's a lot going on, there's a lot of things. And, a lot of me, I have a suspicion that all of the talk of, uh, you know, the only real fulfillment in life is a family or that, you're missing out on all, you're not really living life if you miss out or if you don't get that. I have a sneaking suspicion that that's a part of the pressure campaign to get people to conform, to do their duty. Like I know that yeah, most people it's cope. It is cope. Most people it is cope. Absolutely. 99% probably well maybe. But for sure that some of that is hyperbole. For sure. Like to think honest like that there's no other way to find status or there's no other way to get fulfillment and enjoy your life. Like, oh come on. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. If that were the case, people would be having kids every day or every year. They would have a different kid every year. Those that can anyway. And it's like, and not only that, but I'm not like everybody anyway. I'm not. Like like I find it very easy to it doesn't bother me that much not to I've had a social life before. I don't know. I'm not really into it. I don't know. It's just I'm over it. I got over it when I was younger in my 20s. But, who knows? I mean, I'm up for anything. It's any man's guess, but you better believe I'm going to spend my time as wisely as possible. I'm going to and the things I do invest in, I expect to bear fruit. I expect a return on that investment. Absolutely. And like, and the way I see time and life, I see it like I read several Ernest Hemingway novels when I was younger. Like I read A Farewell to Arms and The Snows of Kilimanjaro in rehab, actually. And in The Snows of Kilimanjaro, I mean, it was Ernest Hemingway writing about uh, being a writer and going to Africa and stuff, all the stuff that he had experienced. Not because the Farewell to Arms was World War One. He was an ambulance driver in World War One, and it was a love story as well. It was great though. I really enjoyed it. Um, and then I read Snows of Kilimanjaro, but there's a scene where he explains sort of his philosophy on life, and it's like, life sees it sort of like a market, like a bazaar, and it's similar to capitalism, and you and experiences and like going on vacation or seeing something, experiencing something, those are commodities that you buy with your time. You buy skills with your time by learning them. You buy memories, experience. You buy that with your time, with your effort. And I definitely see things in terms of like I'm walking through a market and I'm sort of just kind of looking at all the things that are for sale and picking out what I want. Because that's what he did. I mean, he went to Africa several times, went to Spain to see the bullfights, lived in Paris. I mean, he's big game fishing in Key West, went and did all kinds of things. But he did that so because he the way he put it was he wanted to be a writer, and he did since he was a young man, and that's what he set out to do. And he said basically he needed to experience life, get out there, mix it up, chop it up, have good things happen, bad things happen, accomplish goals, be successful, fail, the gamut, the whole, the whole ball of wax. And because otherwise you're just some hack, laying around pulling books out of your library to crib from, to steal from, basically ideas to steal from. It's like I mean, that's the only real way to go about writing. And basically it's like, it's and the way his uncle puts it is life is a hunt. And or at least for a writer, it's a hunt, and it's a man pitting his wits against the forces of ignorance, barbarity, stupidity, pitting your own wits against ignorance. If you're a writer, especially too. And I believe that's how I see myself, pitting your wits against other people's stupidity. But it's like about experiencing life, finding something worth spilling your guts out over, finding something worth telling, going out into the world and when you report back, having something worthwhile. So, and it's like a hunt. And the riddle of the story is the movie, uh, which I've also seen, Greg Peck and Ava Gardner. But there's a riddle, and there's a snow leopard in the Himalayas. It's like 5,000 feet up or something, and it's way beyond the snow leopards or the lynx or the snow leopard's natural bounds. Or, it can go up there, but they don't go up there they don't do it they don't go up there normally. They can, but they don't. There's no food. They found, a snow leopard up there, and nobody knew what it was doing there. And it is a riddle. And his uncle gives him that riddle on his deathbed, basically. And that's the input. That's what he says, his nephew, like, I guess his parents died or whatever, so he only had his uncle, but he had done the bouncing around for 15 years, had fought in the Spanish Civil War, and thought he made a hash of it, thought that he had wasted his time, going to Africa. Didn't, his writing didn't, he thought his writing wasn't that good. And his uncle says, well, if you're having trouble, you don't have the inspiration to, go out and hunt. Because he used hunting as an analogy, like him going out and learning things, and like that was like hunting, his uncle would be like, have you done any hunting lately? He should always a man should always keep his hand in hunting, should always, keep himself sharp as a hunter. And this riddle is to give him something to pursue. And he's trying to figure out what the hell this leopard was doing up there. And he finally comes to the conclusion at the end of it, because he had gotten lost. He had lost his way, and that he felt he lost his way. And he didn't know for sure, but what he said was, the leopard must have lost his way. He must have lost his way. Because that's what the leopard was an analogy for him, He was looking for food, and he ended up going someplace where he couldn't survive or whatever, or there was no food, and dying. And he finally comes to the conclusion, well, the leopard must have been lost, must have somehow got lost. And he felt lost, so he figured it was a good idea to turn back around. But I like the analogy, and that's the way I see it. It's like constantly learning, constantly combing through history, constantly combing through data, media, knowledge, to find nuggets worth telling, worth talking about. Seeing it as a hunt, and I like that idea, and I do intend to see more of the world at some point. Like, I was thinking about going to Michigan, or like maybe when maybe in the next election or something, and just doing like man on the street stuff. I don't know. I've been thinking about that lately. Kind of like Nick Shirley, you know, wouldn't be a bad move. But I like the way he put it, that the world is sort of a market or a bazaar where you use your money as your money are tokens, or your money are tickets at a carnival or a arcade. That's kind of how I've always lived. Like, I never stayed at one job too long, bounced around trying to sort of figure out what I wanted to do or what I was doing, you know? And I learned a lot too. Made a lot of mistakes, and I like think I think it was a good, like, I'm glad that I learned, or made me who I am, but I think I have some wisdom that's can help people that, you know, don't or need advice. But our problems right now, guaranteed, there are solutions, and like the solutions we have already, guaranteed, for sure. We figured these problems out. It's just a matter of going back and finding where the answer is. And I've sort of learned that over my life. Is that I find all the time. I find uh, historical examples of how people fix things that we're dealing with right now. Because it's like we've forgotten a lot. There's so much information from the past. We can't learn it all, or we can't use it all in our daily lives, or even in life period, or so there's a lot of forgotten pearls of wisdom, and I think if one spent their whole life, learning about history and trying to, like, that wouldn't be a life wasted. Not at all. And at some point I would like to do like a travel, and like, go see things for myself, you know and like do so on my channel. Those that Sueda or Kuwaita, they're still getting flooded with people. Notice how they only showed that initial shock. They're not showing us the trickle afterwards. Of course they're, and that's how they do it. They get your attention, and then it gets your attention, and then they ooh, we need to get their eyes off that. And then something else pops up and gets our attention. Weird. Crooked. And check this out.
Ready?
This is crazy. Watch this. Bro. What the hell, dude? What the hell? Let's watch it in slow-mo.
Solve.
Wow.
So you got
the world's fastest YouTube or Rubik's cubes solving or finishing.
It's gonna be good.
Check this out. Check this shit out.
How much time was it? I don't know yet. What do you mean you don't know? Okay. 103.
What?
Are you serious?
Hell?
Yeah. Oh. The current world record is 305 milliseconds. Wow. So this is very exciting.
Matt, and you said,
Bro.
I don't know if we'll get lucky tonight.
This is awesome. How much time was
Is that not crazy or what, man? And it spins. Those things spin. That's how it was changing. Each one of those axles spins. Bro, can you believe that? That happened in that flashbang. Boom. Did all those spins. Funny. I have that Rubik's Cube right here. Maybe I should pay attention. Like I got pretty close. I think I got to where I had like, I think 3 sides finished or 3 sides finished, I think. Close.
I don't know yet.
That's
What do you mean
crazy.
you don't know? Okay.
Bro. Like I can't believe it. It's possible to do. I mean, and it did it that fast because those things are spinning. You know, it just did it so quick. Crazy though. So crazy. Too fast. Too fast. Isn't that right? There's a couple of things that I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting I wanted to bring up. You know, and you guys seen that Jason, that black professor in the UK that killed himself recently? You know, all the people that do vigils after that, you know, the black people that show up to do vigil. You know, like I finally kind of occurred to me why they do that, why they do those vigils for somebody who doesn't deserve it. They do that so that they can claim some political power, some political cachet. They pretend like they cared and they pretend like this guy was a total fraud. And they're out there saying that he was lynched. It was a modern day lynching. This guy killed himself and he got found out. People found out that he was a fraud. And then he kills himself. That's not a lynching. The guy was after 3 years of this guy lying and of years of Cambridge covering this guy's all of his misdeeds, and then but they're doing that. They're making this big public thing out of it so that they can cry oppression, so that they can continue with their grift, with their bunch of garbage grift. They don't believe that stuff. So in all these performances of them, like candlelight vigils for George Floyd. No, that was just, they were going through the motions so that they had a club, a bludgeon, a cudgel to beat you over the head with, to beat white people over the head with, to beat the Europeans over the head with. Oh, we're going to put on a show like we really care, like this really matters, as if it really affects us and would ever affect us. We are going to make such a big deal out of this that we will get away with stealing, lying, and cheating for the next year at least. Absolutely. You guys know where the term loot came from? That is literally Indian, as in dots, not feathers, Indian term for plunder that did not exist in European lexicon until the pillaging of India. They did so much pillaging and plundering that we acquired a new term, loot. Loot. I love that. That is so cool. That's one of the cool. I love that term. It's like cahoots. Loot, cahoot. There's these certain words that are just bangers. Something about them, bro. They're bangers. Folks, total banger of a word. Loot, plunder, pilfer, balm. Acquit. I love the word acquit. Scruples. That's a good one. Scruples. That's fire. Or ruse. Ooh, ruse is that one's fire. Jest. Ooh, jest. Ooh, man. Bro, I am fire. I have always had a pretty good vocabulary. It's not the best. Like I've every now and again I've heard recently I heard Ben Shapiro say a couple words that I didn't know what they meant. But I'm not trying to be the best at anything. I just think good vocabulary is not a bad. It's not bad. It's the difference between sounding like an American patriot or sounding like Patrick Bet David. I don't want to sound like Patrick Bet David with broken shit English. I like having good English. Hey, what's up, Mickey, Mackenzie? Fabulous. Yeah, he he definitely looked, although he had a wife and kids. Who is a moron? Me? Bleak Gilliam, you're a moron. Okay. Yeah, the Rubik's Cube kind of pissed me off recently. I got close, but I just couldn't quite. What were you saying, Mackenzie? Where'd you go? Would you go on a trip or something? Yeah, see, this is what what I was trying to do too with this episode or with this stream. Like you guys engaging and throwing out good ideas. Like this was legitimately the whole reason because I knew you guys are smart and you guys think, and it's like no matter who you are, you can't count for everything, and you're gonna miss stuff. That's kind of why I just kind of wanted to see what you guys thought. Pull up a video where I look through the comments because I don't really all that often get to chat with you guys about your comments, and it's like it's always I end the stream and then I look through the comments and I'm like, oh man, I wish I had known that I had said that. Like seriously. Loot. I love that word is that we gained a new word from the pillaging and I must say though, when you see like the plunder of India, it doesn't make you feel good. Like, and it's like, I don't know, it's not I didn't do anything, but it's like, these third worldists, it's like, I don't really think they have a leg to stand on and stuff, but it's like, those things happened in history. And they use them like a crutch. They use them like a crutch, like idiots. They think that, like, oh, or like black people in America, oh, you white people got the GI Bill and that created generational wealth. It's like, bro, that's loser talk. You're wasting time talking about it, you moron. You should go out and work. Get what's yours. Quit sitting here complaining about how you don't have what you think you should. Go out and get it, you idiot. Hello. But it's just like that stuff did happen, and our the Europeans, our European ancestors did that stuff. Whether we like it or not, it happened and we can't ignore it. We can't pretend it didn't happen. And they use it as a crutch, and it's to their own detriment. It makes it so that they can't fix anything. They can't do anything for themselves because they're too busy complaining. But it's like, no matter what, though, they did it. The Europeans did those things, and we have to live with it just as much as those poor people around the world have to live with it. We have to deal with it. And what they're doing in Michigan, like trying to take our country from us, you better believe that they feel justified. It's like, I'm not so sure that they first of all, they don't know what the hell is going on any more than we do. But it's like, they can say whatever they need to justify stealing and being an all around bad human being. But I'm not so sure that, that what we feel, the narrative we feel like is happening. I'm not so sure that that's happening. I'm not so sure that this country is mine anymore. It's like, bro, maybe that was all bullshit. Maybe the world would be a whole lot easier to deal with and to content myself with if I shook myself free of that idea. If I figured out a way to square that circle and content myself with, okay, I guess America doesn't belong to me. Because whether we like it or not, the way things are going to play out, we don't know yet. But however they do play out, that's how they're playing out, and there's nothing we can do about it. So it's like, maybe we should start kind of getting comfortable with the idea of, and maybe that's just the first step to giving it away. I don't know, but it's like, I'm trying to figure out the right orientation to have, the right way to carry oneself going forward into the future. To minimize adversity and to minimize mental anguish, but also to maximize, preserving the things that I care about. Hey man, we're all blind in some aspects. I mean, you can pretend to be holier than thou, that you know everything and that you're self-aware on every different level. And the fact of the matter of it is, I don't necessarily care to be perfect or to be self-aware on every level. I do, however, wish to be aware on the things that I care about, on the things that are that it matters, that there's a necessity to care about it. And whether or not I do complain about the same thing as black people and that I talk shit about them, well, it is what it is. I mean, it doesn't make me self-conscious. Like, okay, what's your point? I'm sure you are as well. Everybody is. I'm not perfect. Never said I was. And someday I'm sure I'll figure it out, whatever it is you're talking about. watching a lot of history lately. I don't know why. It's just been really good. Like a lot of history. Like I watched the sack or the plundering of India, the Crusades, um, the French Empire, the beginning and the end. I didn't realize, yeah, the French Empire is the second biggest empire ever. Yeah, which I didn't realize. And also the first company ever was the Dutch I think it was the Dutch Indies Company. I forget. It was the Dutch. The first one was the Dutch one, and it's where like they sold stock, sold shares, and you got dividends. That was the first, and they were like colossuses. And the East India was one, and it was literally the most powerful company in human history. Although they're catching up to it today with these companies they have nowadays. They really are. I mean, and they're doing despicable stuff too. Pretty damn evil stuff. Got a damn video in here. I hate that about the YouTube history. Is it just going over thumbnails and they play for half a second? You don't even realize it. They end up in your history. It's stupid. I don't know why my feed still throws these these dingbats like Dana Lesh into my feed. Like I don't want to watch their crap. They're idiots. Neocons. Yeah, I see. I guess like people are saying that the Democrats are having a civil war. It's like I feel like no, they're having a revolution, but the rebellion is being put down by the establishment. And like I wish we could replace the Republicans. That would be pretty sick. I mean, for sure, that would be great if we could do that. APAC. I guess some elections happened.
Down goes APAC. Down goes APAC. One more time. Down goes APAC. So a stunning upset in Florida. Angie Nixon's running against Alex Vindman. There are many other races tonight. I'll tell you about them. Trump lost in a couple places that were surprising. There were some Democratic favorites that had some battles that were a little too close for comfort, but
I must say, it's like I bet I'd be willing. There's a lot of people that are probably gravitating to that Democrat Socialists of America party. That if we had a decent offering on the right, like a nationalist party or something like what Tucker's doing, that offered answers and solutions, like those people would go to that side. But it's like because they have no other choice, basically, they're going to these morons, these colored people on the left.
Pulled it out. So a lot of super interesting stuff tonight. But the main event is in Florida for the Senate nomination for the Democrats. Alex Vindman was a guy who was like a resistance hero. Remember, he testified against Trump
for Florida governor, Congressman Byron Donalds. Congressman, congratulations to you. Big win, big numbers tonight. Your thoughts on bringing
Byron Donalds? I guess he's laying out his vision for Florida. Yeah, I kind of need to see that. Kind of need to see
Florida
that.
governor, Congressman Byron Donalds. Congressman, congratulations to you. Big win, big numbers tonight. Your thoughts on this victory? It looks like you are about to become the favorite to take this thing in November.
Well, I want to just thank the people of Florida, Republicans all across our state deciding to go to the polls and support my campaign for governor. I want to thank, obviously, President Trump for his great support in our race, Rick Scott, our former governor, current senator, so many of our sheriffs, members of Congress, members of the legislature. But this is really about the future of our state. as a Republican Party, we have set the standard here in Florida. Ron DeSantis has done a great job as governor, and it's about keeping the wins that he's brought to our state going forward, but also building for our future, making sure that we can balance the growth with our agricultural lands and our conservation areas, because Florida is the best state in America, and we're not going to stop anytime soon.
I want to put this.
Yeah, Florida was a swing state. When I was a kid growing up, yeah, it was purple as all get out. That 2000 election was wild. But yeah, people forget that. No, we got a big colored population here. And a big portion of that population are like direct descendants of slaves, like that still live in the remnants of the slave quarters. Like in Central Florida, yeah, Apopka, absolutely. Yeah, that's where Warren Sapp, who used to play for the Buccaneers. Yeah, that's where he grew up. That was a slave quarters. Straight up, that was a slave quarters. And they still live there. They just built little shanties, little Negro shacks, as they're known. But yeah, it was big time. And then also the big J population. Although it's not as bad, I think now. I feel like it was more liberal when I was younger, but that's when the Democrats were different. The Democrats were not crazy back then. So it was like understandable. Now it's like I feel like Floridians, they're a little bit more they have a little bit more of the sensibility of city people, I feel like, but and then also the traditional sort of, or old school conservative Southern. I don't know, Florida's different for a Southern state for sure. You know, a lot of Florida seems like up north seems like some Yankee territory. And other parts of it are just hardcore deep South, you know, good old boy territory. Especially the wilder, like Okeechobee, the Everglades. That's, man, you know, a bunch of shit kickers live down there. Really.
This up on the screen if I can, because your opponent in November is going to be David Jolly. He posted this on X, quoting, "Floridians are being squeezed by an affordability crisis, watching corruption in Tallahassee, and exhausted by endless culture wars. After 30 years of one-party rule, voters are ready for a change." Interesting, because David Jolly was a Republican. Now he's on the other side. And I think it seems to me like Florida kind of likes being a red state right now. What do you think, Congressman?
Well, first of all, the affordability crisis is brought to us by Democrat policy. David Jolly ignores the disaster of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They unleashed an inflation that most Americans have never seen, the largest inflation in more than 50 years. Number two, when he talks about culture wars, is defending the puberty of our young kids, making sure we support family values and Western civilization.
Yeah, and see, this is what the conservatives, this is the crap that they sling, the total garbage, horse dung, and bull dung that they serve up and feed people with a silver spoon. I don't understand how people swallow it. They talk about values and this and that, which have no, like, they don't mean anything. They don't equal action. They don't equal laws. It's just sort of a vague mindset, or I'll be sure to look out and make sure, you know, that I pick and shoot. And that's the thing. They run on that, which basically means we will change less shit than those people. We will change less. We will change less. Things will get worse by a slightly slower pace because we're of us. But you know, that what he just said means absolutely nothing in terms of legislations, and that's the problem. I mean, or that's a problem. Yeah, they straight up run on vaporware, on just total fantasies, farcical, far-fetched crap, culture war. And that's the thing. It's like the culture war stuff. It's like, bro, those vagaries, those sort of slogan. You're sloganeering, bro. Get out of here with that carnival barker garbage, man. Stop.
David Jolly still supports boys playing in girls sports. It's just him and the WNBA that think that.
Who cares, bro? Why don't you tell Florida what you're gonna do? For real though. You fat puffer motherfucker. Big old fat puffer. But the thick lips, oh, he should carry it thus.
Absolutely insane. And that's not what the people of Florida want. So when you talk about affordability or you talk about Florida's culture, it's Republicans that have actually had a prosperous state in Florida led by Governor DeSantis, making sure that we support family values and parental rights. As governor, we are going to continue to protect those things while also pushing down insurance costs and making sure the people of Florida can afford the beauty of our state into the future.
Yeah, Congressman, we had, the DSA a little bit disappointing in Florida tonight because you had Jared Moskowitz beating Oliver Larkin, the DSA candidate for Congress. That's in the redrawn 25th district. Here's what Larkin said about where he stands. Watch.
We do not need ICE to keep our communities safe.
I do support the abolition of the Senate. The current configuration of the state of Israel is a religious supremacist one.
I've got about 30 seconds, Congressman, but this is a setback for the far left of the Democratic Party.
Let's be very clear. One, Oliver Larkin is a crazy person. And look, I'm glad that he lost. But let's also look at the fact that you have Angie Nixon, somebody who's supported by the Democrat Socialists of America, who's now the Democrat nominee for the United States Senate against our United States Senator Ashley Moody. So the Democrat Party has a decision to make. Are they going to follow socialism? Or are they going to follow common sense? It's already clear that the Democrats do not support common sense. That's why more people in our state are choosing the Republican Party every single year. That's why we have a 1.5 million voter advantage over the Democrats in our state.
You got the president's backing. So far, haven't gotten Ron DeSantis. Do you expect to get an endorsement from the governor very quickly,
Word
sir?
of the day.
I do. Look, at the end of the day, we want to make sure we protect Governor DeSantis' hard work that he's done in our state, but also build upon that foundation to keep Florida #1 and keep it the free state of Florida.
Yeah. Congressman Byron Donalds, congratulations again. Big night for you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Wow, $20,000.
Be sure to like and
spent 20 grand on a year, going around for a year. I mean, that's hell yeah. That would be cool to do it. I don't know. I don't know if I would. If I had 20 grand, I don't know what I would do. I don't know. I might would go to Europe, actually. I think I would go to Europe. It would probably be the only chance I would have to like see Venice. Like I want to see Venice before I die. Because it may not be around very much longer, and it's a marvel, really. I would like to see Venice. I would also like to see Vienna before I die. I would like to see it for Christmas one year. That would be so cool. I mean, it'd be pretty cool to go. I mean, it would have been. I should have went backpacking in Europe when I was like 20, because you can't go now. At least I don't think so. I don't know if I would want to do it. Like, I don't know how women do it. Like, I wouldn't even feel safe. Like, yeah, I don't think I could do it. That would be tough. I would be, maybe with friends I could do that, but I don't think I would be up for that. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I will do something like that, or maybe like the Appalachian Trail. I had friends who did that when I was like 18 or 20. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, Roy said something. Oh yeah, it was it's something about me talking about certain things like evil, good, evil, mortality. Seems like that. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was getting at. it occurred to me that that's kind of what people don't have nowadays. That people don't hear that stuff very much. And I think people are craving it, honestly. Craving uh depth. I mean, I get the feeling, I could tell that that's what people want to hear is stuff that has depth, profundity, stuff that you don't hear, because everything's such is single serving nowadays. It's either single serving or surface level. It's slop, mostly slop. Yeah, Venice, because that's where Othello takes place. Leonardo da Vinci, like so many famous people been there, but also the I fell in love with it. I remember watching that League of Extraordinary Gentlemen with Sean Connery, and that part of it supposedly took place in Venice. And I remember seeing the structure of how it was built. It was built in a lagoon, and that just blew my mind. And then you see how it's like they say it's sinking or it's not going to last forever. So, and there's just other sort of like it's similar to why I listen to Mozart or why I watch that Don Giovanni, because there's something I don't know. I guess it's in search of depth. I'm sort of on my own kind of crusade trying to find that. Like it's the same reason why I read The Count of Monte Cristo. It's like one of the probably the greatest stories ever written. And it's not a short read, that's for sure. I think it was I spent 2 weeks on it. I was working at the time. I was listening to it on Roy Sheen. You said your grandfather joined the Royal Navy and learned to astro navigate. My grandfather was an astro navigator in the Air Force. I actually have he was a teacher too in the Air Force. He was an officer, but he was a teacher before he became an officer. But yeah, he was an astro navigator as well, KC-130, and in Vietnam, no less. Uh, but yeah, that's pretty cool that my grandfather, he said he wasn't big on math, but he wanted to be an officer, and that was the only way because he was too old for like he had to get a waiver, and they needed navigators, so it was his ticket into officer candidate school. So he said he just bit the bullet and figured how to do math out. Like he just, he didn't have a choice. He got it done. Your barber used to pull those tourist boats. Oh, a gondola. Yeah. Trying to think of what else happened in Venice. A lot of stuff happened in Venice. I said Othello. I want to say, well, a lot of Shakespeare plays happen in Venice. And I want to say Don Giovanni. It's supposed to take place in Spain, but there are a lot of scenes where they're on a gondola. They're literally like basic. I think I read something about wanting it to be in Venice, but not being able to do that, like for some reason with the story, because I think the story takes place in Spain, España. Don Giovanni is Spanish. That's why it's called Don Giovanni. Dons are only in Spain and Italy. They have, Don and Donna, Belladonna, but it's Spain and Italy where they have Dons and Donnas. But really, though, like that opera is so good. It's incredible. And there's so much more meat to it than anything nowadays, than anything you'll hear, anything you'll watch. And what's crazy is like there's a scene where, like I was saying before, like the Don Giovanni's like, You smell that? I smell a woman, you know? And then his valet goes, what a sense of smell you have. Like, what the hell? And then he's like, oh, there she is. And he's like, and your eyesight too. But you know, it was like out of nowhere, he kind of he doesn't break the fourth wall, but Don Giovanni says that stuff and he goes, what eyesight you have. What a nose that you have, man. Like, and it was just, it looked just like a modern movie. And I feel like montage music and montages are all modeled off of Mozart, or at least the tune, the songs. Because there's a song in that opera. I swear to God, every sort of cliche movie where it's like if somebody's moving up in the world or whatever, and it's like sunny and light and happy and they're and it's like I don't know, the song is so familiar though. There's a couple of songs in that opera. I swear to God, they must be used they must be used as like background. I don't know what it is. It's like they're used so often for those circumstances that I feels like I've heard it a million times. I want to sing along to it like I've heard it before. And also, it's like you ever notice that there'll be like some sort of a cliche musical phrase or a cliche song, like even like, you know, Here Comes the Bride or something, where that one song, or it's because it's so popular or whatever, that it just becomes locked in as the only one, you know, and people, all they do, it's same thing with like what do they call it? A beat sample, where they cut a piece and then make a bigger beat out of it. It's like they find there's some musical template or some artistic template that somebody comes up with, and it's so on point that nobody ever tries to make another one. They use that template and they just work within, or they work with the template and kind of embellish it to make new stuff. That's what this is. It's like the starting point for all of Western storytelling, or something like that. Something like that. I'll figure it out eventually, but there is something about Mozart's music where there's pieces of it in everything. Every day there are pieces of it that we imbibe that we don't even realize. I almost feel like he invented like the montage, you know, positive, good things to come. I feel like he invented that almost, and I don't, man. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. You know, there's something about it too that just makes me a little bit more at peace. Like if I died right now, I would be a little bit more content than before. I would be more content with my fate. Like if I was strike dead right this second, I would be more content with that than I would have been a month ago or like 2 weeks ago. The feeling kind of reminded me of like when I was like, you know, started dating somebody, you know, started dating a woman or whatever, and that really, that peace, that at peace, where it's just like, bro, I could literally get struck by lightning right now and it would be acceptable. It would be acceptable. Yeah, I felt that, this sort of just at peace feeling, and it was just like uh you know, if there's such a thing as God's music, that's it. You know, I don't think I don't think, I'm not so sure that you could get closer. Like it was done, he did it so well, so early. It's like, really, I mean, you're not going to outdo it. And even if you did outdo it, nobody would even realize it. Nobody would ever compare. You know what? I don't know. But stuff, I feel like the more that I find, the more the treasures of the Western culture that I discover, the more sort of at peace I am with everything, with my lot in life, with my past, my history, my own regrets. You know, just becomes a little bit more acceptable, a little bit more, but this a little bit less, a little bit less screwed, or a little like I don't feel like I've missed out. I don't know. Hard to put my finger on it. Anyway, it's been a long one this evening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I know I didn't really have solid through line. You know, it's hard to have one of those every night. Seriously. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thankful for you guys watching, and see you guys tomorrow evening.